Здравствуйте. Those are Russian and Kyrgyz, different ways to say hello, to greet someone. And in Kyrgyzstan, Kyrgyz is the national language. Russian is the kind of main language that many people do speak, especially in the capital. But out of the capital, Kyrgyz is definitely the language you want to learn. I'm Ruby. I've been here since 2017. I came here to teach. And I also do a lot of contracts where I run programs, camps, trainings, workshops all around the world. I've been working for a travel company for the past 4 months, helping them build their website. Kyrgyzstan is a pretty cheap place to live. I really like it. It's really beautiful. People are good, food is good, and I like to come home to this place. Kyrgyz is Kyrgyz, which means 40 girls or 40 tribes. There's a big history here. So the traditional culture is very nomadic. People lived in the mountains, they moved with their animals, they followed the seasons, they stayed as a group, they stayed as a family, as a tribe, and then over time, other kind of empires and nations came in. There's a lot of overtaking. Genghis Khan is one of them. Let's talk about like the Silk Road. The Samarkands kind of started to invade in. And then in the 20th century, Russia. So that is kind of how Kyrgyzstan has evolved. In the early 90s, the Soviet Union dissolved, and so Kyrgyzstan was then released back into becoming its own independent country, becoming the Kyrgyz Republic, the official state name, and that is where we are now. You guys asked some amazing questions, so I want to try to get into as many of those as I can. When I first came here, I had lived in Jordan for 2 years as a Peace Corps volunteer. So if you know, Jordan is a very Islamic country. It's Arab. It's got a deep, steeping history of being Islamic. So when I was coming to Kyrgyzstan and I knew that Kyrgyzstan was also an Islamic country, I thought it would be very similar. But it's actually very, very different. It's so much more open, so much less conservative. I can wear whatever I want to. I can shake hands with men. I can stay out late at night. You know, all these scandalous things. I have a lot more freedom here. I feel like I can be myself, which is something I had not expected when I came. People are a big part of why I love being here. People are very kind. Hospitality is huge in this culture. It's like many cultures, but it's a part of who you are, is your ability to welcome guests and like bring them into your home and into your hearts. Being able to feed someone, give them tea, being able to ask questions and learn about a new person is a really important part of the culture. People are very aware and curious. They're funny. They like to joke. They make lots of like kind of jabs at each other in their daily conversations. The kids here are the cutest. Apologies to everybody that has cute little brothers and sisters, but the kids here really are adorable. And people are really friendly. I've had people walk up to me on the street while I'm waiting for a bus, and they are kind of shy, but they're asking like, where are you from? Where are you trying to go? Do you know what bus you need? That kind of thing. I've had taxi drivers who will like stop, they'll park the car and help me carry things. If I have a load of things in the car, they'll help me carry them, you know, to my door so that I don't have to make all these trips. Just really kind of like touching acts of kindness, I think, are the normal here, which is really heartwarming and it's really lovely to be a part of. Family is super, super important. Kind of going back to that Kyrgyz idea, the 40 tribes. Everyone has their tribe. Everyone has a family that they are a part of, and they stay connected to that. When students are around university age, they often leave and you know, they'll go to university, they will study, but a lot of times they end up back in their villages or back taking care of family, because that is a really important part of being Kyrgyz. There's a lot of pride in that. There's a lot of just connection to this idea of a national identity. When people find out that I live alone, they're worried always. They think how strange it must be, and they are afraid that I get lonely. And then they ask, what do I eat? Food. Meat is by far the most beloved thing here. Meat, they eat sheep, they eat cow, they eat horses, chicken for sure, fish. So most Asian cultures have some form of a dumpling, and Kyrgyzstan is no different. They have big dumplings called oramo, and they have little tiny dumplings called pelmil, and they have everything in between. They have different types of breading. It can be fried, it can be baked, it can be steamed. The national dish is called bash barmak. It means 5 fingers. It's basically a bed of pasta with boiled meat on top. It's pretty delicious. It's kind of greasy. The dish is just like steeped in this tradition of gathering and making it together. So usually you have to make the dough, you roll it out, you cut it into pieces, you get the meat out, and then eventually everything gets cut into like little tiny pieces, and the whole group that's eating together does that together. I became a vegetarian about 1.5 years ago. Being a vegetarian in Kyrgyzstan, where meat is so important, I thought would be hard, but it actually is. People understand it. People are very, very accepting of it. They're curious. I get some questions. They like to joke about it, but ultimately, I can eat what I want to eat. I can find food to eat, no problem. And it's been pretty easy. One of my favorite breakfasts at a restaurant called Adriano's is just an egg and croissant and some salad, and you can get coffee. You can get sandwiches, you can get soups, you can get like anything you want. There's a snack called samsa. It usually has meat or potatoes inside, or chicken and cheese. One of my favorite Kyrgyz dishes is called lagman, and it's noodles with broth and vegetables, and then some meat on top. I usually take the meat off and give it to someone else. This is a very Central Asian dish. It's Uzbek, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan. They all have some form of this dish. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about my favorite parts of Kyrgyzstan, or like what's most exciting. For me, it's probably shopping in a bazaar. This is a chore. It's not like I look forward to it, but when it happens, it brings so much fulfillment. It doesn't get old. It does not get old. You go, you talk to people, you have to answer questions, you have to ask questions, you get to choose what you want. I find it's the best way to be sustainable in shopping, where I can try to get as little packaging as possible. I reuse bags. People understand that. But I also get to talk to people. You know, there's like a happiness level that depends on your interaction with strangers, and you get that just by going shopping. And so while I'm always like, oh, I need to go buy food, the process of it is actually pretty delightful, and it's always an adventure, and I always come home just feeling so proud and fulfilled and like restored in a way. So most mornings I wake up and I might do yoga, I listen to podcasts, I get ready, and then I walk to work. And so I walk, it's about 1/2 hour to the office building where I work, and then I work, yay, and I walk home. And often on the way home, I'll either stop at a store, try to look for something. I'll maybe stop and like hang out with a friend for a while. Maybe somebody meets me at the office. But usually I do stuff either at lunchtime or after work. And then on the weekends, kind of hang out at home. That's when I do like big shopping trips or go to the bazaar, or if I need to find something. If I can have time and like a free weekend, I'll go hiking. And that's really exciting. There are buses, there are marshrutkas. So the buses cost 8 som, which is about it's about a cent right now, 1 penny. The marshrukas are these white sprinter vans. They cost 10 som. For me, I just try to stick to the buses as much as possible because they're a lot more comfortable. I used to have a car. I actually still have it. I'm trying to sell it. It's called a Niva. This is a Russian car, and I don't like driving in the city. It's just not a good car actually for the city. It doesn't handle like having to go slowly very well, or at least not on like asphalt nice roads. It's perfect for the mountains. So if I want to get out of the city, it's been really nice for driving. It's really easy. It's about 45 minutes to some of the closest places to go hiking. I can get into valleys, I can go to waterfalls, I can be on trails, really fast. But beyond that, if I really want to get out of the city, there are so many amazing places in Kyrgyzstan. Right here, this is Lake Issyk. If you come to Kyrgyzstan, people are going to ask you, have you been to Lake Issyk? Like, you'll arrive at the airport and they'll be like, have you been to Issyk? And you'll be like, no, I just got here. And it's the second largest alpine lake in the world. It's like a little ocean. Your job is to figure out what is the first alpine lake, largest alpine lake in the world. Okay, then running all the way through the middle of the country is called the Tian Shan Mountains. 94% of this country is over 1,000 meters. Yeah. 65 to 70% of the country is just like pure mountain range. like think like the Rocky Mountains maybe, I don't know. The Fergana Valley is kind of right in this area. It's always been a melting pot between Tajik, Uzbek, and Kyrgyz cultures, kind of the different clans and tribes. Uzbek civilization has always been a little more settled, while Kyrgyz has been more nomadic and in the mountains. And so this is a really beautiful area. It stays pretty warm. And in the winter time, there would always be conflicts between Kyrgyz and Uzbek and Tajik clans over like the land that was in the valley. There's a place here called Narin, which is very remote. It's very high. There's a lot of, just mountains, lakes, kind of almost like barren landscape, but it is also really beautiful just in and of itself. Arslanbab is over here. So this is more of the kind of southern part of the country. There's a city called Jalalabad. Arslanbab is just a little bit above it. It's a walnut forest. And that's a really neat place. People like to come, and you can go climbing, you can go hiking and exploring. It's really difficult to get to, but it's a really cool place. There's a place called Karakol. So you have Issyk, and then Karakol is over here. It's a city. It's really not that exciting, but Karakol is the jumping off point for all of the mountains and all the like really cool stuff over in this area. So you have these mountains that you can get into. You also have all along the south shore of the lake. It's not super developed. It's just a lot of little tiny towns, some really cool canyon formations, rivers, waterfalls. There's lots of little like places to stop and hang out. And then yurt, the whole yurt life, the nomadic going into the mountains for Gilo, where you take your animals up for the summer, you hang out in the mountains. That's a deep, deep part of the culture. And so the idea of the yurt is everywhere in the country. And if you come as a tourist, staying in a yurt is essential at some point. So those are all the things about Kyrgyzstan that I wanted to share with you. I know there are more questions about like activities and probably more culture questions that I have not gotten to. We are going to talk face-to-face-ish soon. And so if I did not answer your question, please keep that in mind and we will talk soon. In Russian, we say "do svidaniya" to say goodbye. And in Kyrgyz, we say "paka, paka." Okay, so "do svidaniya" or "paka."